Well, it is just about time to hit the road for the Mohican 100 miler. Cheers, y'all. How's it going? As I mentioned in the intro, by the time you are watching this, I am honestly probably on the road to Ohio to get ready to once again take on the Mohican 100 miler. Not so lucky last year, only made it 54 miles. So for today's video, I thought I'd go over sort of some of my feelings, my goals going into this year's race, as well as just walk through some of my packing. Not all of the gear that I'm bringing, but just some of the essentials or some of the unique items I have in my kit that might help other folks who are preparing for similar style races. Because I know when I was prepping for my first 100 miler and even for this one, had a lot of questions, and it was very helpful to see what other folks bring along for the ride. Whoa, sudden cut and everything on the table has moved. That's because I forgot to mention, I won't be updating probably anything on YouTube until I get back from the race sometime next week. So if you do want to follow along with live updates, etc., or just stay up to date with how I'm doing during the race, how the weekend is going, follow me on Instagram at IRunOnBeer. I'll be posting more live updates there, and my crew will also be posting actual updates of me throughout the day, taking pictures coming into camp, crew exchanges, etc. So live updates there. I'll also post links down below to the live runner tracking if you just want to get updates on their website to see how I'm progressing through Saturday and Sunday. So be sure to follow along there, and now we'll get back to the video. Before we jump into gear, I guess I'll go over some of my initial thoughts and also how I've sort of put together my gear or how I've been thinking about my packing list. I'll get to that part later, but to tackle the initial thoughts first, as I mentioned, took on this race last year. If you want to watch the video from that, I'll link to it up above as well as down below in the notes, but only made it 54 miles for a number of reasons. I think my friend and I that I run the ultra marathons with, he and I had an incredible first ultra marathon, which I think led to us just going into the Mohican 100 miler a little bit too confident. We ran the Bandera 100K as our first ultra, had an incredible time, honestly ran that race way better than what we were anticipating. And so we're expecting not to do as well at the Mohican 100, but perhaps to have less difficulty than I think we should have anticipated. So the wheels fell off pretty early, started the race way too quickly, and just fell apart during the second loop. And so that's where we left things. We left the race not sure if we were ever gonna return, but then when we got to watch our friends finish, including Ultra Dad, seeing him finish just under the wire, his whole family there to celebrate, just such a motivational experience, and knew that we would have to go back to try this race again. And I'm very happy that we also convinced that whole group of runners to come back and attempt it again, as well as adding Ryan Clayton to this year's lineup. It should be an incredible race, but very, very much looking forward to taking on this race again and coming in much more humble this time around. So I think really, my plan for this race, or our plan for this race, is to take it a lot slower than we did last year. Again, coming in a lot more humble and just trying to finish under the 32-hour cutoff and taking as much time as we need to accomplish that. I think that's gonna mean around like 7-ish hour loops. I'm hoping like around a 7-hour loop for the first loop. I think the second loop may be our slowest just because of the heat. I think if it gets hot during the heat of the day, the plan is just to take it incredibly slow, maybe even hike the majority of that portion. And then going into the last two loops, the nice thing about Mohican 100 is that it cuts out 4 miles of the loop for the third and fourth loop. So the first half is actually a little bit longer than the second half, if that makes sense. And the section that they cut out is also a significant climb. So the last two loops should be a little bit easier. If you're running a 15-minute mile, it's 4 minutes shorter. That's an hour off of your loop time, or 4 miles shorter, that's an hour off of your loop time. So really looking forward to hopefully taking advantage of that for the second half of the race. But I'm hoping to maybe average like 7 to 8 mile loops, finishing somewhere between 28 and 32 hours. I think that's the expectation going in. I don't think that I can overstate enough how I'm just not approaching this year's race with any amount of overconfidence or expectation for what's to come. Going in with a plan, having these goals in mind, but really just going in ready to take whatever the race or the course is going to throw at us. I think that's gonna be the key, just taking it slow, dealing with issues as they arise, knowing that there are gonna be issues, but just being ready to handle those in the moment. I also think our crew is much better prepared this time around to assist us, not just coming back after every loop, but also also meeting us on the course to see if there's anything we need. So I think we've done a lot more planning. We've been a lot more detail oriented in the organization for this race. And ultimately, I am just so excited to get together with everyone again on Friday night, and then especially to get ready on the starting line early Saturday morning for that 5 a.m. gun time. All of that being said, I thought I would walk through some of my gear to give you an idea of sort of how I wrap my mind around everything that I would need. Started by looking at what went wrong last year with gear. Not a ton. Gear was actually pretty good. Chafing presented an issue, but starting with the issues, what's the new stuff that I need to add into my toolbox to make sure that I have for this year's race? But then I really just broke it down into what am I going to need to start the race? What do I want to have on my person at the start? And then after finishing each loop, what am I going to want, or what questions might I have, what gear might I need after each individual loop? So not like a collection of stuff that I will always have at the end of every loop, but more specifically, here's what I might need after the first loop, here's what I might need after the second, after the third, etc. Putting all of that stuff together, and then of course we'll have a drop bag at the halfway point of each loop. And so also what emergency items might I need on course to help if any kind of issues arise, if any problems arise, any unexpected circumstances or weather, etc. So that's sort of how I organized what gear I was gonna need and put all of those lists together. I know it might sound somewhat complicated, but I think just losing myself in the details and meticulously planning some of this stuff helps settle the nerves and makes me feel more prepared going into this race. The gear that I have in front of me now, I have organized into sort of running gear, what I'm wearing, what I'll have on me, etc. Then I have nutrition, and then some miscellaneous / medical, first aid, etc. supplies that I'm going to use. So I'll kick it off with just sort of the main gear that I'm going to be using. Again, a lot of this is what I'm gonna be starting the race with, but just some key items to touch on. In terms of pack, obviously everyone or almost everyone is gonna run with some sort of pack. I use the Orange Mud. I believe this is the Gear Vest Pro version 2. I really like this pack because it's very customizable to your preferences. For example, the pack comes with a bladder in the back. I did have some issues with the bladder on mine last year. Just the slide opener on the top got jammed at one point, which presented a huge issue when it was extremely hot and I couldn't refill the liter of water in the back of my bag. So this year I'm just going with 2 refillable water bottles. Each are 600 milliliters, and then they have this screw-on cap that I really like because it's got the extended straw, so you don't have to take the bottles out to drink them. They'll just both sit right on the front of the vest. You can lean over, take a sip of whatever you'd like. Normally, I'll fill one of these up with electrolyte beverage and one up with water and just kind of alternate. So that's what will go on the front. It's got 2 pouches on the shoulders. That's where I'll put fuel, salt tabs, gels, etc., things like that I just need to grab in the moment. Little pockets on the front here as well. Normally, I just put, like if I need to put garbage in there, a little tiny stick of sunscreen just in case I need it. And then most of the stuff that I'll have with me, other than like other gear and things like that, will just go in the back. There's a number of different pockets in the back. So that is the gear vest. The other thing that will attach to those or to the vest are the Black Diamond Distance Carbon Z trekking poles. Used these last year, worked fantastically well. Also used them during the 4-state challenge. Really like these poles. They are incredibly light. They snap together very easily when you're running, so easy to maneuver. You just kind of push them together and then twist to lock them. Very simple to use. So looking forward to having these, and they also just strap right to the front of the vest as well on the side of the shoulder strap. So those are the trekking poles that are coming with me. I guess I'll stay on theme since I have the Black Diamond trekking poles. I also invested in a new headlamp for this year. I'm not positive exactly what model this is, but I did just get a Black Diamond headlamp. It's got a bunch of different light settings specifically, or brightness settings specifically. The thing that I really liked about this one in particular was that it takes AAA batteries as opposed to being rechargeable. I wanted something that took physical batteries, so if something happens, if the battery dies out on the trail, etc., it's not a, oh crap, how am I gonna charge this? I'll just have some extra batteries that I can throw in there. So very easy. Obviously only need that for the overnight portion, so the 3rd and then the beginning of the 4th loop. Next up, I guess we'll stick with the head. I've got some Buff products, 2 in particular. Again, I think I used both of these as well during last year's race, but just the Bibrave branded Buff Pack Run cap, super lightweight, very breathable. I just really like these hats for Ultras, because of the lightweight nature, if you want to take it off, it just kind of rolls up. You can throw it into your backpack. Just very versatile and very good at keeping the head cool. So definitely bringing that along, as well as just a traditional buff. I usually will keep this in my pack for most of the run, but during daylight hours when it's particularly hot at each aid station, I will fill this with ice and just wear it on the back of my neck so that the ice is slowly melting between each aid station. Great way to keep cool, so bringing that along as well. And then just the final pieces of gear, I do run in Injiji, however you want to pronounce it. I do run in toe socks. I'm a toe socks man. Had some significant blisters after the Bandera 100K and have been fighting with trying to find a way to avoid them ever since. And the best method I found is a combination of toe socks as well as KT tape, which I'll get to in the medical portion. But I pre-wrap my feet in tape during around like the hot spots, the places where I normally get blisters or might expect to get blisters. I pre-wrap them before the race, put the socks on so I don't have to worry about it at all. And last year I finished with 0 blisters. So hoping that holds up for the full 100 miles this year as well. And then last but not least, I mentioned I had an issue with chafing last year. So 2 things that I'm doing to try to combat that. One, for the second half of the race, I'm gonna change from traditional running shorts to a pair of half tights. Again, just a little bit tighter, not quite compression tights or compression shorts, but definitely better at just holding everything in place and preventing any kind of rubbing or chafing from happening. These, I have to give a shout out to another YouTuber, Kofuzi, who tested these and reviewed them. Orange is my favorite color, and I just thought it was a very cool pattern. It's also just got an absurd amount of pockets. So pockets on the side here, which when I've been running regularly, I can fit my full cell phone in case in here, and it doesn't bounce around at all. It holds it nice and tight against my leg, but I'll probably just put fuel and stuff like that in here for the Ultra. You have those on both sides, and then also on the back, you have a pocket that runs the full back of the shorts. Again, you could fit a phone in here, any kind of gels or anything like that, fuel, and you have 2 access points to this full pocket back here. And then during all portions of the race or all loops, also just got some running briefs, which I have never run in before. But again, chafing, I can't overstate how much of an issue chafing became during the second loop of last year's race. So these, someone recommended to me. They're super, super thin. They're from a company, Mind Over Mountain. I had to order them from Canada. I couldn't find any carriers in the US that had them. But if you can see, they're super, super sheer. Very, very thin, minimal fabric, but again, just helping to prevent any kind of unnecessary chafing. And then also snagged a pair of underwear, which I have tested in the past and enjoyed. So I will probably use these for the second half of the race. So that is the most essential running gear. Oh, almost forgot because I have it down here, not on the table for obvious reasons, but also once again running in the Ultra Lone Peak 5s. I bought these for last year's race. They held up really well. I really like the shoe, like the fit of the shoe. Also wore them on my 4-state challenge, that 43 miler. So very, very much enjoy these shoes, definitely bringing them along for this year's race as well. So that is gear that I will be wearing. In terms of recording, just bringing along the GoPro on the extendable stick. I'll have this in the back of the orange mud pack, fits nicely back there. Moving on to fuel. Slide this stuff over. One addition to fuel, again, as I mentioned, thinking about issues that I had last year and how I might be able to prevent them this year. I had just some very, very low level nausea during the early stages of last year's race, but it just kind of continued throughout, definitely through the first loop and even into the second. It was just always sort of lingering. And I found at aid stations, if I just took a couple sips of ginger ale, that really helped to settle my stomach. But I think it was just the eating and moving so much in the heat. Just like I said, very, very low levels of nausea where I was just uncomfortable. So it made it harder to eat just because food didn't seem super appetizing. So I got some tummy drops, just some ginger cough drops. Really, really enjoyed these, have tested these a few times. They're actually pretty spicy, like a spicy ginger, but I like that as well because it's sort of a distraction, also kind of a palate cleanser, which I enjoy. This is just a very simple cure, I think, for during each loop. In addition to the ginger chews, bringing along, I think this is what we used last year as well, just some salt sticks, salt tabs. These are the ones that you can take every like 15 to 30 minutes. I think I usually take one every 30 to 45 minutes. These are the lemon lime flavor. Just let them dissolve on your tongue, but really enjoyed these. Again, super appetizing. I actually thought they were very tasty, but also more importantly, just helping you to stay hydrated and replenish those electrolytes that we are going to be sweating out so constantly. In addition to the salt tabs, I'll have Noon, plenty of Noon back at home base. I've got tropical, citrus fruit, and then a multivitamin one, which I won't use during the race, but leading up to it just to make sure that I am plenty hydrated. I've got the tangerine lime flavor as well. Other fuels that I have, stuff that worked really well, I've got the Honey Stinger waffles, which I love. I have another shipment of these that should hopefully be getting here later tonight, waiting until the very last minute, but have a variety pack of these coming, which I'll take a couple of these along with me for each loop. And then Hammer Gel is the gel that's gonna be on course. So I ordered a case of the Montana Huckleberry, and then like a snack that I love that I just find delicious during races and very easy to digest. I'm gonna stock up on plenty of Lay's potato chips. I just eat a ton of potato chips during these long runs, and that is my preference. Nice and easy, very salty, very easy to get down. So eating plenty more of those. And then usually I also, when I come back to camp, have my crew put together just some plain cheese quesadillas. That's something that I also tend to enjoy. Pretty somewhat calorie dense and also just very easy to digest. So that is everything for fuel, I think. I don't think I'm missing anything. And then last but certainly not least, sort of the miscellaneous or medical related supplies. So I'll start with, because I already sort of referenced it, the KT tape, or just the wrapping of the feet. This is the KT Tape Pro. It's a little bit stretchier, a little bit also more adhesive, a little bit more durable just in terms of sticking to the feet. And what I do is pre-cut it for all of the areas that I'm gonna need and put together these sort of blister packs, pre-made blister packs that I'll have at home base as well as in my drop bag. But inside of each one, I'll have a separate bag labeled for each part of the foot. So like, these are my heel, I have pinky toe, I've got the ball of the foot, and I've got the big toe as well. So those are the areas I tend to tape. But like you can see, I cut these into different size pieces, and even within each Ziploc bag, they're labeled for which part of the tape goes on which part of the foot. Before I apply the tape, if you're interested, there's plenty of videos you can watch on like how to do this, but I also have a tincture of benzoin, which is, I think it's technically an antiseptic, but it is super adhesive. So this I have like a little bit, it's got a brush in it that you can sort of paint on, and then this one is a bit of a mist or spray, just to help kind of get better coverage. But I put a thin coat of this on the areas where I'm gonna put the tape, let it dry slightly, and it just gets super tacky. And then I stretch and apply the KT tape over the benzoin, and it just like glues that stuff to your foot. So I still have to finish cutting those. That's on my to-do list tonight, to finish just cutting and prepping the blister packs to make sure I am ready. Ideally, if all goes well, I will just need to tape my feet once. But if I do need to change socks midway through the race, some of the tape might just start to peel off a little bit, and so I might need to redo some of that during the midway point. But that is the blister packs. Other medical supplies, I just have sort of this miscellaneous bag that's got a bunch of stuff. We've got anti-chafe ointment, Band-Aids, nipple Band-Aids, Pepto-Bismol, just a general first aid kit, alcohol swabs, itch relief, anything I could think I need. Basically, again, just the creative problem solving. Advil, can't remember if I mentioned that, like painkillers and things like that. Anything I think I need. The last thing that I have to buy to add to this is just some BioFreeze, just as the joints start to stiffen up, etc. If I want quick, immediate relief, just to be able to spray that on or rub that on in between loops. And then of course, the tried and true Body Glide. I've mentioned it a bunch of times already, but chafing was a significant issue last year, and so just going to make sure that I apply this at the start of every single loop, no matter how much I just want to get back on the trail. I have instructed my crew to make sure I reapply Body Glide, apply it early, apply it often, and just keep that going to hopefully prevent any uncomfortable chafing throughout the race. But that is an overview of kind of the main gear that I will have. As I said, I have the stuff that I'm gonna start the race with, And then I also have kind of packs planned for the end of every single loop. So I think I'm probably just gonna stick with the same gear for the first 2 loops, the same clothes, everything, etc. Just reapplying the Body Glide halfway through. And then after the second loop, I will likely switch out the briefs, change into the half tights as opposed to the running shorts. Probably just changing out clothes to get rid of the salty, sweaty stuff, again, to help with chafing. Throw on a fresh pair of clothes, maybe just wipe myself off with some baby wipes, clean up quickly, get back out on the course. And then depending on how comfortable or uncomfortable I am after the third loop, debating if I need to make any changes, swap out any gear to start the 4th and final loop. So that is the overall plan. I've got a lot of details to go over with my crew. Again, I've been just kind of trying to hammer down all of these minute details so that I am as prepared as possible for any of the unknowns that I know are going to come my way. But overall, I am just so excited, certainly anxious, but so excited. So I am gonna go pack all of this very meticulously in a very organized fashion based on when and where I'm gonna need different things, so that I don't have to worry about anything. Once we leave to head out to Mohican, everything's ready and good to go for race morning. So just looking forward to getting out there. It's quite a drive ahead of us. We've got, it's about 8 hours from here. We're gonna do it in 2 parts, half on Thursday, half on Friday. Check into our cabin at 5 o'clock. Head to the pre-race meeting, have our pasta dinner, and then a very early bedtime on Friday night because we have a very early wake-up call Saturday. 5 a.m. is the start time, and hopefully sometime before 1 p.m. on Sunday, we will be finishing not just the Mohican 100-miler, but our first 100-miler finish ever. So looking forward to the weekend. If you're gonna be there as well, let me know down in the comments below, or better yet, come find me at the campsite at the pre-race meeting. Would love to say hi. I'll be hanging out with Ultra Dad, Ryan Clayton. Plenty of other folks are joining as well. Obviously, my buddy Todd, Dan's brother, our friend Tim is running the race as well. So we'll have quite a group, and our crew is even larger of a group. So you will certainly see us around. I hope to see you as well. And I hope if you are running this weekend, you have a phenomenal race. But thank you as always for tuning in. I hope the video was helpful. Happy to answer any questions that you have. And I look forward to checking in with you after the race. Cheers.